Hey guys, this is Tech Howdy. I welcome you to another video tutorial where we are building this CMS application using ASP.NET Core 3 and Angular 10. In the last video tutorial, we implemented the user activity feed where the user can look at all the activities that they have on their account. And in this video tutorial, we will be working on the settings view where the user can change their password. So let's go back to our application, Angular application, and implement the settings view and the functionality to change the user's password. So here in the Angular application, we'll go ahead and open the user settings.component file and user settings.component.html file, which is located in the user folder. Here we are going to instantiate certain objects or inject certain objects and services. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I've added the form builder object, the account service, the validator service, the toast service for notification, the validator service because we have some controls and we are going to validate the information that is added or entered on the control, and the account service to communicate with our backend API, and the form builder to build our form controls. So now the next thing, we will go ahead and add the form controls that we would need. So we are creating the change password form. So we need a control for the old form. We need a control for the old password. Then we need a control for the new password and a control to confirm the new password. So we would need three input fields in our form. So we would need to create three form controls. So let's go ahead and implement or create these form controls. So here I have added these three form controls and also created a form group object which we are going to use to build our form. So the next thing that we want to do is initialize these controls in our ng-oninit method. So let's go ahead and initialize these form controls. So here we have initialized our form controls. Initial value is set to empty, as well as the validators have been implemented, and the validators have been implemented for required, which means that all these three fields are required on the form in order to submit the form. Also, we have added some additional validators for max and minimum length of the value entered, and the validator service is used to call the must match method. This is the custom method that we had created, which will be used to match two control values. In this particular case, we are going to match the new password value entered with the confirm new password, and we want to make sure both these values match. Next thing, we will go ahead and initialize the form builder, or using the form builder object that we have over here, we will initialize our form group, and that should be it for the ng-oninit method. Now when the form is submitted, we need to create a onSubmit method. Now you can name this method anything that you like. In my case, I'm going to name this method as onSubmit. So in the onSubmit method, we have to first check if the submitted form is valid, which means that all the checks have been passed, the required fields have been entered, the values have been, the min and max length of the values have been added according to the validators that we have set here, and both the values match for new and confirm new password. Then the form would be valid. So we have to check if the form is valid, and if the form is valid, we will call the backend API to update the user's password. So let's go ahead and implement this logic over here in this onSubmit method. So here in the onSubmit method, I have implemented the logic using the update password form that we have created, which is of type form group. It has a property called as valid, which we can use to check if the form is valid or invalid. If any of these validators fail in their check, then the form would be invalid. So if the form is valid, we will call the backend API using the account service that we have created. We have implemented the user profile method. So we will call that method, and then we will get the user's email. So if the form is valid, so we will pass all the values from the form to this object over here, and we will update the user's email as well, because we would need to send it to our backend API. We need the email of the user. Therefore, we call the getUserProfile method first to get the user's email. Then we attach that email to this user details object, and then we pass this object to this change password method, which we are going to create in the account service. You see this red line? That's because this method is not yet created. We will implement this method. So while we call this method, we need to pass certain parameters. So in that parameter, we need to add the email of the user. Therefore, we had to do this additional call over here. Next thing that we do is subscribe to the result, and if the result is valid, we will show a toast message to the user that the password is changed. Now let's go ahead and implement this method in the account service so that we can call the backend API to change the user's password. So here we have implemented the change password method in the account service. We are passing the user's details from the form that will be filled out by the user in our user settings, and the user details will be passed to this change password method. When we have the user details, we are going to create a reset password object or reset password view model object. That's the name of the class that I have used, which I have created in the model service of our application. And here within the object, I have created the old password, new password, confirm password, and email properties, and assigned the values from the user detail object. Then I use the HTTP client object. Using the post method, I'm going to make a call to the backend. In this HTTP request, we are going to pass in the URL that we want to call, or the endpoint. So I have specified the endpoint over here. Next thing, we pass the object which contains all the new values. We set our headers and our token, and then we map the response that we get and return the result back to the user settings component. So that should be it for the change password method. Let's go to the user settings.html and implement the UI for this particular component. So here I've implemented the HTML that is required. We have created a form object in our HTML, which has a form group attribute specified with the form group name. Then we have the onSubmit method that's being called when the form is being submitted. In the form, we have the old password, new password, and the confirm new password input fields. We have specified the form control name with the property names that we have created. And if there are any errors, we will display the errors just below the input fields. That should be it for this form, and we have the submit button disabled until the form is valid. So this is reactive programming since we are using form control. So as soon as the form is valid, the button will be ready to be submitted. So as the form is invalid, the button will remain disabled. So this should be it for the UI part of this particular component. Now in the backend, if we go to our backend application, go to the profile controller, we already have implemented the change password method. This is the method that we are going to call. We have implemented this method during the implementation of our admin panel. If you have not watched the video tutorial, then I recommend you to go and watch it, because we have implemented all these endpoints and we have used them to change users password from the admin panel. So we are going to use the same endpoint, which is change password, to change the user's password. And here we will pass the reset password view model object, which we will receive from the body, and we will call the uh, function from our change password method itself. So here in the user service, we have already created all the functionality that we need to check and change the user's password. So we are just going to call those methods. We are not going to go into detail of how we have implemented this, because we have already spoken about this when we implemented this method in the admin panel video tutorial that we have created. So if you need more information or more details, go ahead and watch the video tutorial that we have done for this video tutorial series on this change password method. So that should be it for this particular method. Now we have successfully implemented our UI. Let's go ahead and test the change password functionality and make sure that everything works as expected. So settings view is loading, and here we are going to test with first an invalid old password. And let's try to update. Once we hit update, we receive a message from our toast service which says invalid old password. Let's try with the new uh, correct old password. So test, that's test at 123, and then the new password is test at 1234. Now let's go ahead and update our profile. Now our password was changed successfully. We received a notification. Let's try to log out and log in with this new password. Test at 1234. Let's try to hit login. And now we can log in with the new password. And if we go to the activity log, we should have these invalid password attempts as well as the new password change successfully activity feed entered in the activity feed. So we are tracking all these activities. We had implemented this when we created the change password method for the admin panel users. So during that tutorial, we had implemented all this logic. Here we have the password successfully changed. We could log in with the new password. So this should be it for this video tutorial. If you have any questions, use the comment section, and the source code will be available in our DevOps repo. The link will be provided in the video description. Do not forget to like and subscribe our channel Tech Howdy. Thank you.